Most people walk past their backyard every single day and see nothing, just grass, just space, just wasted potential sitting right behind their house. But one man looked at his backyard and saw something completely different. He saw freedom. He saw income. He saw a way out of the financial trap that millions of Americans are stuck in right now. And what he built back there for just $600 is generating $1,400 every single month, while he pays absolutely zero in property tax on it. Zero, not a reduced amount, not a small fee, nothing. And before you say that sounds impossible or that there must be a catch, stay with me, because by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly how this works, why it is completely legal, and why thousands of people are quietly doing this all over the country without anyone talking about it. The housing market right now is brutal. Mortgage rates are high. Rent is suffocating people. Inflation is eating into every paycheck. And the average American homeowner is sitting on a piece of land they are not using, a backyard, while simultaneously struggling to make ends meet. That is the problem. And this story is the solution. Let's go back to where this all started. He was not a contractor. He was not a real estate investor. He was not some wealthy guy with resources to burn. He was an ordinary homeowner who was tired of watching his paycheck disappear, tired of feeling like he owned a home, but the home was slowly owning him. His mortgage, his taxes, his utility bills. Every single month, it was the same suffocating cycle. He had a backyard that did absolutely nothing. A patch of grass he mowed twice a month and never used. And one afternoon, scrolling through his phone, he stumbled across something he had never heard of before in his life. A Quonset hut. Now, if you have never heard that term, you are not alone. Most people have not. But here's the fascinating part. The Quonset hut is not new technology. It is not some modern innovation. It dates back to World War II. The United States military needed a structure that could be shipped anywhere in the world, assembled by soldiers with no construction experience, and survive extreme weather conditions. They needed it cheap. They needed it fast. And what engineers designed was a genius half-cylinder of corrugated steel, a prefabricated arch structure that could be bolted together by anyone, in any climate, in a matter of days. The military built over 150,000 of them during the war. And after the war ended, surplus units were sold off to the public for almost nothing. Farmers used them. Storage businesses used them. Remote communities in Alaska and Canada used them for everything from homes to hangars. The design never changed because it never needed to. It is one of the most structurally sound shapes in architecture. An arch distributes weight evenly across the entire structure. Snow loads, wind pressure, lateral forces. The curved design handles all of it better than traditional rectangular building ever could. And the steel? It lasts for decades with minimal maintenance. So he started researching. And what he discovered completely changed his perspective on what was sitting in his backyard. He found that a basic Quonset hut shell, the corrugated steel arch kit, could be purchased for as low as $600 for a smaller residential unit. Not the finished product, the shell, the bones, the raw structure. And he realized that if he could build on top of that foundation himself, he could create something that would not just look incredible, it would pay for itself within a single month. He ordered the kit. It arrived flat-packed. And this is the part that most people do not realize. Assembling a Quonset shell does not require professional construction skills. It does not require heavy machinery. The panels bolt together using a simple overlapping system that two people can manage with basic tools. He and a friend assembled the shell over a single weekend. The steel arched into place panel by panel. And by Sunday evening, the skeleton of something extraordinary was standing in his backyard. But here is where it gets really interesting. And here is the first thing you need to understand if you are thinking about doing this yourself. The shell alone is not what makes this story work. What makes this story work is what he decided to do on the inside. Because at this point, he had a steel arch, nothing more. And he made a choice that separated him from someone who builds a shed. He decided to treat it like a premium product. He insulated the interior walls with spray foam. He installed reclaimed cedar planking across the curved ceiling, which gave the interior that warm, cabin-like aesthetic you can see in the image. He poured a clean concrete floor and topped it with luxury vinyl plank that looks like hardwood. He ran electrical from the main panel in his house. A permit-required job he hired an electrician to handle properly, and that cost him around $300. He installed recessed lighting inside and string lights along the exterior facade. He built a small wood deck at the entrance using cedar boards. He added a large sliding glass door across the front face. The entire glass wall that makes the structure look like something out of an architectural magazine. Total build cost when everything was finished? Just under $4,000. That includes a $600 shell, the deck, the electrical, the insulation, the interior finishes, the sliding door, the lighting, and the plants and the white pots out front. Under $4,000. For something that looks like it belongs in a boutique hotel. Now here is where the money conversation begins. And I want you to pay very close attention to this part, because this is a section that most videos skip, and it is the most important part of the entire story. He listed the space on a short-term rental platform, not as a tiny house, not as an apartment. He listed it as a unique backyard studio, a creative retreat, an off-grid escape that happens to have full amenities right behind a residential home. He priced it at $65 per night, and within the first week of listing, he had 11 bookings. Think about that number for a moment. 11 bookings in 1 week for a space that cost him $600 in materials to frame. The guests loved it. They were not booking it because they needed the cheapest option in town. They were booking it because it was different. Because staying in a steel arch with cedar interiors and string lights and a private deck feels like an experience. It feels like something worth posting on Instagram. It feels like a story they can tell. And that is the single most powerful force in the short-term rental market right now. People are not just buying a place to sleep. They are buying experience. They are buying content for their lives. Average occupancy in the first 3 months hit 72%. At $65 per night with 72% occupancy over a 30-day month, that is 22 book nights. 22 nights multiplied by $65 equals $1,430 in gross revenue every month from a backyard after platform fees, typically around 15% for most short-term rental platforms. His net is around $1,200 after the small electricity and water costs he absorbs. He clears just over $1,100 per month in pure profit, and his initial $4,000 investment, he recovered entirely in less than 4 months. Now stop, because what I am about to tell you next is the part that is going to genuinely shock you. And it is the part that has the most legal and financial significance for anyone watching this who owns property. He pays 0 property tax on this structure. 0. Not because he found a loophole. Not because he is hiding anything. Not because of anything illegal or gray area. He pays 0 property tax because of how property assessment law works in most states across this country. And most homeowners have absolutely no idea this exists. Here's how it works. In the majority of U.S. states, a property is assessed for tax purposes based on the presence of permanent habitable dwelling units. A primary home is assessed. An attached addition is assessed. A permitted accessory dwelling unit with full plumbing, its own address, and a certificate of occupancy that can trigger additional assessment. But a non-permanent accessory structure, one that does not have its own foundation poured into ground, that does not have its own dedicated utility connections established as a separate dwelling, and that falls under a specific square footage threshold, is frequently classified as a storage structure or utility outbuilding by the county assessor's office. And in most jurisdictions, those structures carry 0 additional property tax burden. His Quonset hut sits on a ground-level platform, not a poured foundation, not a slab with rebar driven into the earth. A surface-level deck frame. This is a critical distinction. It means the structure is technically non-permanent. It can be relocated. And because he connected his electrical through his main panel rather than establishing a separate meter, and because the structure has no independent plumbing or septic, it does not meet the legal definition of a secondary dwelling in his county. The assessor drove by, looked at it, filed it as an accessory structure, and he has paid 0 additional property tax since the day it went up. Now, and this is extremely important, property tax law varies by county and by state. You must check with your local county assessor's office before building anything and renting it out. This is not legal advice, but this is exactly how he did it. and it is completely legal where he lives. This also connects to a second financial advantage that very few people talk about. Because his structure is classified as a non-permanent accessory outbuilding rather than a permanent addition to his property, it also does not trigger a reassessment of his primary home's value under Proposition 13 rules in his state. His baseline property tax on the main house did not change. He added a revenue-generating asset to his property without increasing his tax liability by a single dollar. That is not a loophole. That is strategy. And here is something that will change how you look at every backyard you ever see again. The IRS provides a home rental exclusion, commonly known as the Augusta Rule, under Section 288 of the Tax Code. If you rent your property for 14 days or fewer per year, that rental income is entirely tax-free. It does not need to be reported. He was already past that threshold given his occupancy rate, so he does report his income and takes deductions. Depreciation on the structure, platform fees, supplies, a portion of utilities. But for anyone who rents their space for fewer than 2 weeks per year, the IRS does not even want to hear about it. Now, let's talk about what he actually built on the inside, because the interior design of this space is a masterclass in budget hospitality that every aspiring host needs to study. The curved cedar ceiling immediately reads as premium. It is warm. It is organic. It is unlike anything a guest has ever slept under in a hotel or Airbnb apartment. The cognac leather sofa he sourced from a Facebook marketplace listing for $40 anchors the living area. The wall art is a single large landscape print from an online print shop, $18. The potted snake plants at the entrance were $12 each. The string lights cost $22 for the full exterior run. Every single design decision was made to maximize perceived value at minimum cost. And it works. His average review score is 4.9 out of 5. Guests describe it as cozy, unique, and surprisingly spacious. The curved ceiling creates an illusion of volume that a flat ceiling rectangular room never achieves. He also made one operational decision that dramatically reduced his management workload. He invested in a smart lock, $69. Guests receive a unique code when they book. He never has to be present for check-in. He never has to hand off a key. His entire hosting operation takes him less than 2 hours per week, including messaging guests and doing a quick review of the automated cleaning schedule he set up with a local cleaner. He pays $40 per turnover. $40 cleaning fee, which he passes directly to the guest as part of the booking. So his cleaning cost is effectively zero out of pocket, 2 hours per week, $1,100 in profit per month. That is the math. Now here's the thing that most people ask at this point. They ask, is it scalable? Can you do more than one? And the answer is yes. Absolutely yes. A standard residential backyard in a suburban neighborhood can typically accommodate a second Quonset unit if the yard is large enough and local setback requirements allow it. Setback rules, the minimum distance a structure must sit from a property line, are the primary constraint. In most suburban zones, you need at least 5 feet of clearance from the rear and side property lines. His yard gave him room for one unit comfortably, but he has already told his neighbors about it, and 3 of them are now in the process of building their own. That is what happens when real results become visible in a real neighborhood. You stop having to convince anyone. The numbers do the convincing. He has also started thinking beyond short-term rental, because here is a second market that is exploding right now and almost nobody is targeting it correctly. Remote workers, digital nomads, traveling professionals who need a quiet, private workspace for 30 to 90 days at a time. These guests are the golden demographic for Quonset studio rentals because they book longer stays. They cause less wear and tear than weekend party tourists, and they are willing to pay a premium for fast Wi-Fi, good lighting, and a space that separates work from a chaotic home environment. He is now actively pursuing monthly corporate rental arrangements that would guarantee him a fixed income of $1,200 with zero platform fees and zero turnover cleaning costs. That would be pure profit. And here's what I want you to sit with for a moment, because this is the part of the story that matters most. Not the money, the mindset. This man did not have special skills. He did not have access to capital. He did not have a mentor who taught him the game. He had a backyard. He had a weekend. He had the willingness to try something that everyone around him thought was strange. The guy next door told him it would look ridiculous. His brother told him the city would shut it down. His wife, he has admitted this publicly, thought he had lost his mind when the flat-pack steel panels showed up on the driveway. And now every single one of those people has asked him to explain exactly how he did it. That is the power of taking action when everyone around you is still debating. The world is full of people who almost did something. The world is full of people who had the idea but waited for the perfect moment. The perfect moment is a myth. The man in this picture is proof of that. He built on imperfect ground with imperfect weather and an imperfect budget. And the result is paying his car note every single month on autopilot. If you have a backyard, you have an asset you may not be using. If you have an asset you are not using, you have income you are leaving on the table every single month. And after watching this video, you have no reason left not to at least look into it. Check your local zoning rules. Call your county assessor's office. Look up Quonset hut kit suppliers online. There are multiple reputable companies that ship nationwide, with kit prices starting in that $600 range for smaller units. Price out what a basic interior finish would cost you. Run the numbers for your specific market. Look at what comparable unique stays in your zip code are charging per night on short-term rental platforms, and do the math yourself. The numbers will tell you everything you need to know. And one more thing before you go. If you live somewhere cold, if you're sitting in a northern state or a high-altitude region right now, thinking this sounds great, but not practical for a cold climate, I want you to hold that thought. Because the Quonset structure was designed by the military specifically to perform in extreme cold, properly insulated, which costs less than most people assume. A Quonset unit can maintain interior temperatures comfortably through brutal winters. Spray foam insulation on the interior steel panels is the key. It eliminates condensation, creates a vapor barrier, and provides R values that rival traditional wall construction. Guests in cold weather markets actually pay more for cozy winter rentals than summer bookings in many regions. A warm, glowing arch in a snow-covered backyard photographs like a fairy tale. And that photo alone will fill your calendar. If you found this video genuinely helpful, go ahead and drop a comment below. Let me know if this is the kind of content that's actually moving the needle for you. And if you want to know exactly how to winterize one of these structures, how to keep guests comfortable through sub-zero nights, and how to market a backyard rental in a cold weather market, subscribe. Because that is exactly what the next video covers. Everything you need to survive the cold and profit from it at the same time.